Hi, I'm Dr. Caroline Leaf, and welcome to my show, The Dr. Leaf Show. In today's show, we are going to talk about how to get those good grades, how to improve your brain performance, how to increase your intelligence. You're as intelligent as you want to be, how to improve your work performance, and how to build healthy, good, useful memory. Let's face it, if we don't have a decent memory, we're not going to remember how to do anything. We need to learn how to build good memories. We need to learn how to build our brain. We can get those good grades. We can improve the way that our brain functions. It's very much under our control. Intelligence is something that you actually develop. Intelligence is not fixed and static. Intelligence is based on how you're thinking and using your brain and building your memories. So therefore, you're as intelligent as you want to be. All of this we're going to talk about in the show today, and I'm going to talk about this information that's on this topic in my new book called Think, Learn, Succeed. This is the culmination of 30 years of my work in research and in clinical practice, helping people to overcome not only emotional issues, but also to build their brain, improve their memory, improve learning skills. I have worked with education, trained teachers, worked in schools, worked with students, worked with corporates. I have trained doctors, university professors, students at university, because all of us need to learn how to use our mind properly to build decent memory. So how do we learn? What is this whole process? Okay, so the work in this book is I love this stuff. I love being able to tell people how they can build memory. And the third part of this book specifically deals with, although please, you need to read the whole book. This is really, every word in this book is going to help you so much. The third part of this book, I deal with what I call my 5-step switch on your brain learning process. This is a process that I developed many, many years ago. In fact, 30 years ago was when I did my initial research showing that when we use our mind correctly, we can change our brain. So when we're very deliberate and intentional about focusing on knowledge and basically working through it in a very intentional and deliberate way, we can build very healthy memories into our mind and into our brain. So working with patients, working in research, I was trying to understand how a thought forms or how a memory builds. So when I talk about building a thought, I'm talking about building a memory. So thoughts and memories being the same thing. Now, to build a thought or build a memory, we need knowledge, and then we need to think about that knowledge. So where do we get the knowledge from? From life, from either in your workplace, if you're at work, so you need to be able to process, understand, and remember what you need to do in your work environment. Obviously at school, whether it's your whatever age at school, obviously at university, every stage of life we're always learning. So you're always being exposed to knowledge. Myself personally, I'm in this field of brain research, so I have to spend at least 1 hour to 3 hours every single day without fail, keeping up to date in my field. So I'm constantly learning new facts and understanding, not just gathering data like a puzzle pieces. I actually build the puzzle. I get the understanding. I focus on certain topics, etc. So I think it through very deeply, and that's vitally important in building good memory. In this current technological age, it's definitely not difficult to get hold of knowledge. It's extremely easy. So knowledge is not difficult to access. It's knowledge management that is the problem. And it's become an increasing problem in this day and age. There's actually a disconnect between knowledge and knowledge management. And that's the gap that I close in the information in this book, all the different areas. And today we're talking specifically about the 5-step learning process. So in my process of trying to teach people and help people to manage knowledge in school, work, and life, I developed this process of 5 steps, which is based on how we build thoughts with our minds and the resultant pathway that this follows inside the brain. So these 5 steps are mind things that you do, and they change the structure of your brain. So you literally choose what you want to focus on. And what we know from the research is that when you pay repeated effort, when you focus on something repeatedly in a very organized way, then learning will result. So repeated effort makes learning take place. Or when you're focusing on something repeatedly, you're going to build that into a thought. And the more you think about it, the stronger it gets and the more it grows. And that's under your control. What is your control? What does your control mean? Your control is your ability to think and feel and choose. Okay, so learning is related to your ability to use your mind, which is your thinking, feeling, and choosing. So these 5 steps that I'm talking about that I teach you in this book take advantage, if you want to kind of way of saying it, take advantage of how memory builds into your brain. And it's a very complex mind and structural neurophysiological process, but it can be simplified. Obviously, when I was working with my patients, I couldn't go and give them all the neurophysiology and all this heavy science, although that's something that I love. And I have put in the last 2 chapters of this book, I've put a lot of information about memory and how memory forms. And we'll talk a little bit about that today. But I couldn't tell them that, so I had to simplify this process. And what I found was that when you're thinking to learn, there's some very important things that you have to do. And when you do them, your brain responds in the correct way. So when you think in the correct way, your brain is designed to follow the lead of your mind. And when you work hand in hand with the design of your brain, which is one of wanting to learn the different structures of the brain and the different the neurons and the chemicals and all the different parts of the brain are designed to gather data, to build this into physical memories in your brain and then influence how the body functions. And that's with our general thinking and also with when we are gaining knowledge to increase our intelligence. So the first step is that we need to be able to focus on information. If you don't focus and be very deliberate about your focus, then you're going to have a random bunch of information coming in at you and you're not going to really learn. It's a bit like, as I already gave the example, you're just gathering all the puzzle pieces. And that's not going to, it's going to stimulate your brain and you'll build a very shallow level of memory, but it's not going to help you develop your intelligence or improve your grades at school or improve your functionality at work or whatever your goal is. And maybe all of those goals apply to you. So what we're going to do after this break is we're going to come back and I'm going to talk a little bit more about the 5 steps and a little bit more about memory and explain these techniques to you to help you to improve your thinking and your memory building.
Are you tired of failing? Tired of not getting those good grades, even though you studied for hours? Tired of having all these goals and dreams, but not able to make them happen? Maybe you're just tired of failed relationships.
But the real key to success lies deep inside of all of us, and that is in our mind. If we don't get our mind right, nothing else in our life will go right.
Dr. Leaf's latest book, Think, Learn, Succeed, includes her gift profile and scientifically proven 5-step learning process to help you understand and use your unique mind to find meaningful success in school, work, and life. Order your copy today.
So welcome back. Let's continue to talk about these 5 steps. So the first step, as I mentioned, is this ability that we have, and I stress ability, to focus. In this day and age where we have access to so much information, that we are able to be so connected that we're almost disconnected, that we are so easy to gather knowledge, it's also kind of difficult to focus. And very often we are now in this day and age blaming that lack of focus on ADD or ADHD. So people are being told that they have a brain issue, and that brain issue is the disease of ADD and ADHD. So here's really great news I'm about to share with you. ADD and ADHD are not diseases. They are a description of the kind of symptoms that will happen if you don't learn to focus and concentrate correctly. And that can come from a variety of contexts. Our schooling environment just in this day and age is not very conducive to good focus and attention. Society with the advance in technology and access to knowledge can also work against you instead of for you. So we have to learn in our current day and age to make technology and the access to knowledge work for us, not against us. And that's what this technique is going to help you to do. So if you've been labeled with that particular disease, they've told you it's not a disease and anyone can learn how to learn. I've shown this in my research, and many researchers around the world have shown that when we learn to focus, anyone can learn, anyone can build knowledge. People can get that lack of focus under control if you realize that you actually have that power. So I often found with my patients, especially the ones that were referred to me with so-called ADD and ADHD, I found that what they really needed to start knowing was that they do have the ability to focus, that they do have the ability to learn, that anyone can learn how to learn. I remember that was the last sentence in my PhD thesis that I wrote, that anyone can learn how to learn. Now, I have worked with such a wide variety of people over the years. I worked with people of all ages, from very young to very old. My youngest patients were around 2-3 years of age. My oldest patient was in their late 80s. I have worked in privileged environment, privileged schools, people that could afford to come to therapy, and I have spent a large majority of my working career working in very, very, very poor areas. I have trained teachers. I have worked in schools, so I have a wide variety of a wide spectrum of experience. And when you show my experience, and this is hundreds of thousands of people that we're talking about with my own work individually and my teams that I train that work with me, hundreds of thousands of people around the world have used this technique that is in this book, and it has transformed the way that they have learned and done their grades, their education, their school achievement, their work achievement, etc. So this is very scientific, has a lot of background, a lot of experience coming behind it. So I'm not just giving you a little technique, I am giving you years of experience, years of scientific research that has been shown to change the way that people function academically, etc., and also has helped people to really develop their intelligence, overcome tremendous odds. Okay, so the first step then deals with us being able to focus and pay attention. And that's a choice that you make. So we choose, when we've got all this information coming at us, there's a lot of distractions, but our brain is not designed to remember everything. We're not supposed to pay attention to everything. We're not supposed to function like a Twitter feed functions, where there's just so much information coming through. We are supposed to say, okay, what interests us, and choose to focus on that particular information and focus deeply in on that information. So, for example, if I've got my Twitter feed coming through and I've got my research feed coming through, there's a lot of information. I could spend the whole day just looking at the headlines of the research articles in my field, but that wouldn't help me. I would just be gathering puzzle pieces. So I choose to focus. I scan through and I focus on what I know is relevant to my specific field of study, and I choose to select, of those maybe 10 or 20 articles that come through, I choose to focus on 3 or 4 that are the most relevant. So I go from the big picture and I start narrowing it down, and then I go down to the first of those, maybe 3 or 4 articles I choose to read, and then I start focusing in on the detail of that article. That process of that deep intellectual choice to focus is completely transforming the brain. Before I tell you a little bit more about this, I just want to stress something. The whole concept of ADD and ADHD not being scientific is very true. At the same time, what we find is that people had an increase in referral rate of people with learning problems, with people with not being able to focus and pay attention in the way that I'm describing. And it's been we've got about a 75 to 80% increase in referral rate, when actually the research shows that of those that are being referred, and all ages, this is not just kids at school, this is adults as well, that are being referred and being told that they have ADD and ADHD and need some kind of stimulant medication. And I'm not going to discuss that now. I'm going to do a whole separate program on stimulants and the dangers of stimulants. But of those, according to research, only around about 2 to 17% have a genuine learning disability that has come through maybe something in the womb, something during the birth, some kind of trauma, some kind of whatever. There's a multitude of reasons for people to have a genuine learning disability. I spent years working with those kind of patients, and even those with the worst of the worst, in the worst of the worst situations, maybe fetal alcohol syndrome, or someone who's had a traumatic brain injury, who've really got constraints on their cognitive function, even those showed tremendous improvement in their ability to improve their grades, academic, cognitive, emotional, social functioning. Okay, so coming back to the first step is we've got to focus. If you don't zone in and focus, you're not going to stimulate what we call the quantum Zeno effect, which is the ability to pay repeated attention so that learning may take place. So that sets the ground. So you choose your article, you choose what you're focusing on, you choose whatever it is, and now you go into the next stage or the next step, which is deep reflection, deep focused, deep intellectual reflection. We as humans are designed for deep intellectual thought. When we just scan the surface of things, we damage the brain. When the brain gets damaged, it feeds back into the mind, and then we can set up this ADHD cycle, which is really a description of not being able to focus and concentrate effectively. So when we learn how to think deeply, which is what I teach you in these 5 steps, I tell you how to do it. This book is filled with information on how to do this. When we think deeply, there's 3 things that really help us to think deeply, and that is to ask, answer, discuss. Ask, answer, discuss in a very deliberate, very disciplined, very intentional way through each little couple of sentences. So if you're studying this book for an exam, or you're studying an article for an exam, or I'm trying to, in my case, get new information from the research studies, I don't read through the whole paper from start to finish. I scan through to get a big picture of the headlines and, the main topics and the subtopics, and then I'll read the abstract or whatever to give me a big picture. Then I start reading and I focus on 2 or 3 sentences at a time, and then I stop and I ask, answer, and discuss. And then I move on. As soon as I started getting the information out of that, I look for the concepts. And as soon as I get those concepts, I write them down. According to brain research, when we write things down, we allow a free flow of cognitive energy, of quantum energy through our brain, which allows for cognitive flexibility, which activates the internal networks of the brain. So lots of great brain stuff and great electrical, chemical energy flows in your brain. And I've given you this information in the book as well. When you do this happens this is how your brain responds, and this is what's happening on a quantum level, and I go to all different levels in this book. You can skip all that science if you want to, but I've put it there so that you know you're doing good stuff with each of these steps. And that you also activate an area of your brain called the basal ganglia. When that is activated, it stimulates this really good, uninterrupted, organized flow through the networks of your brain that help you to work things out and to start building a very healthy memory. So you get what we call cognitive fluency and flexibility happening. So writing things down is very important for the learning process, but you need to capture as you get the concept. So the temptation often, and I saw this with my patients so often and over the years with people, is that they want to read through the whole article and then copy that article out. That's not really going to help you. It'll help you a bit, but it's not going to help you that much. If you want to be efficient, you're going to have to work harder, because what I'm telling you is hard work, and there is no quick fix for learning. Learning is it's hard work. And as soon as we get through this quick fix mentality, that's the sooner we're going to get to the point of learning properly. ADHD and all these names come from us not only not focusing and doing these 5 steps, but also because of the mentality of I want a quick fix. There's no quick fix when it comes to using your mind and developing your brain and succeeding in life. Success takes hard work. Okay, so when you write things down, you are activating this process. So now the 4th step that you do is called the recheck or the revisit process. And the easiest way to understand this step is it's kind of an editing process. We naturally do that. Our brain naturally edits. You naturally edit yourself in conversation, and we naturally do this process. And in a technical sense, let's say that you've written something down, and you will also see in this book, when it comes to writing, I have a very specific way that I train you to write in this book, and it's called a metacog. And a metacog is not just writing down in lines, it is writing down in very specific brain patterns that match with how your neurons literally look in your brain, how your memories look in your brain. Your memories look like trees, so you literally grow trees on paper. You put your brain on paper. So step 3 is this writing process, and it's you writing these patterns, these tree-like patterns, and it's quite specific. I have all the explanation of how to do that and lots of examples to look at in the appendix of the book. And I also have a book and DVD called the 5 Step Switch on Your Brain Learning Process, where there's a DVD which also shows you how to do this process. Okay, so now step number 4 is this edit process, this recheck, revisit, where you would take what you've written and compare it back to the source that you wrote from to check, did you understand it? Does it make sense? Did you get down enough words? Can you work from this? Have you missed something? Have you misspelled something? Can you add more? So it's that kind of process. Once you've done that, you then go to the 5th step, which is reteaching, or your output, where you practice explaining that. So you practice talking about it. What I used to always tell my patients, and what I tell everyone when I teach this, is pretend that you're a teacher and teach that information in the way that you felt you should have been taught the first time. So think of explaining it to someone else. Maybe if you're at work, imagine explaining it to a colleague. Imagine explaining it to your boss. So go into a situation where you are explaining and utilizing that information. Another example could be maybe you are a surgeon and you are preparing to do surgery on a patient. And you could actually go through that whole process and have your whole plan, and then you could talk it out in your mind and explain that to imaginary colleagues or to colleagues, but it's the practicing using it that then helps you to get that out of your brain, and also reinforces the memory and adds another layer of depth and meaning. And then you go back to the beginning, you repeat the cycle, and you keep going through the cycle all the time. As I said, not a quick fix, but a solution, a very powerful, very effective solution, which all research is pointing towards. There is no quick fix to learning. If you're going to learn to succeed in life, you have to learn to get beyond that quick fix mentality, and you have to learn how to manage knowledge. And that is the skill that I am teaching you in this book. This book also talks about mindsets. It also talks about your customized thinking, which are vital skills in learning how to think, learn, and succeed in school, work, and life. Thank you for joining me today. I'm Dr. Caroline Leaf, and this is the Dr. Leaf Show. If you haven't yet subscribed, press the little subscribe button at the bottom of your screen, and you'll be updated with all things relating to mind and mental health.
Thanks for joining us today. Dr. Leaf's best-selling book will help you find the switch that will turn on your brain and enable you to be happier and healthier in your mind and body, more prosperous, and more intelligent. No diet will work unless you have the right mindset. In the book, Think and Eat Yourself Smart, Dr. Leaf will show you how to eat real food mindfully and develop a healthier body, brain, and spirit. Do you struggle to find your identity and purpose? The Perfect You will help solve life's questions by providing you with a blueprint for your unique mind. Detox your brain in 21 days with Dr. Leaf's best-selling online program, The 21-Day Detox. Accessible from your phone, tablet, or computer, this program will show you how your thoughts impact your spirit, soul, and body. To stay up to date on all things related to the mind and mental health, follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Thanks for watching today, and be sure to tune in next week for another great episode.